everyone. Welcome to Learn English with Podcast. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Tony. Hey, Nikki, how are you today?
I'm great, Tony. Excited for today's topic. How about you?
I'm fantastic, Nikki. Ready to dive into some fun and delicious conversation. So, what's our topic for today?
Today, we are talking about cooking. We will discuss how cooking can help improve your English and share some easy and delicious recipes you can make with just a few ingredients.
That sounds yummy. And remember, our listeners, we will keep it simple and easy to understand.
Exactly. We will talk about our own cooking experiences, and we have some guests who will share their cooking stories too.
Yes, we have some special guests today. They will tell us about their favorite recipes and how cooking helps them practice English.
So, Tony, why don't we start with you? What do you think about cooking and learning English?
Well, Nikki, I think cooking is a great way to learn English. When you cook, you follow recipes. Recipes use a lot of good basic English words. You learn words like mix, cut, boil, and bake.
That's right, Tony. And cooking is fun. You can learn new words and make delicious food at the same time. For example, I learned the word stir when I was making risotto. I had to stir the rice so it wouldn't stick to the pan.
Haha, that's a good one. I remember learning the word grate when I was making pasta. I had to grate the cheese to sprinkle on top.
See? Cooking helps us learn new words and enjoy tasty food. And it's not just about the food. It's about sharing with family and friends too.
Yes, sharing food is a big part of many cultures, and talking about food is a great way to practice English with others.
Exactly, Tony. Today, we'll hear from our guests about their cooking stories. They will tell us what they cook and how it helps them with their English.
I'm excited to hear their stories. But before we bring in our first guest, let's share a simple recipe, Nikki. What's something easy and delicious you like to make?
Sure, Tony. One of my favorites is a classic scrambled eggs. All you need is eggs, butter, salt, and pepper. First, you crack the eggs into a bowl and beat them with a fork. Then you melt some butter in a pan over medium heat and pour in the eggs. Sprinkle with salt and pepper, and stir gently until they are cooked through. It's quick, easy, and perfect for breakfast or brunch.
That sounds delicious, Nikki. I have a simple recipe too. It's a refreshing fruit salad. You need some strawberries, blueberries, bananas, and honey. Just chop the fruits, mix them in a bowl, drizzle with honey, and toss gently to combine. It's a healthy and tasty dessert or snack option.
Yummy! Fruit salad is always a good idea, Tony. Easy to make and very healthy.
Absolutely, Nikki. So, are we ready to meet our first guest?
Yes, let's do it. Our first guest today is Maria. She loves cooking and has some great stories to share. Welcome, Maria.
Hi, Nikki and Tony. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Maria. We are happy to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your favorite recipe?
Sure. My name is Maria, and I love to cook. One of my favorite recipes is making homemade pizza. It's simple and customizable.
Homemade pizza? That sounds amazing, Maria. How do you make it?
Well, you need flour, yeast, water, salt, olive oil, tomato sauce, cheese, and your favorite toppings. First, you make the pizza dough by mixing the flour, yeast, water, salt, and olive oil in a bowl. Then, you knead the dough until it's smooth and elastic. Let it rise for about an hour, then roll it out into a circle. Spread the tomato sauce on top, sprinkle with cheese, add your favorite toppings, and bake in a hot oven until the crust is golden brown and the cheese is melted and bubbly.
That sounds delicious and fun to make, Maria. Do you practice English while cooking?
Yes, I do. I read recipes in English and watch cooking videos in English. It helps me learn new words and practice listening.
That's great, Maria. Cooking is a fun way to learn English. Thank you for sharing your recipe and story.
Yes, thank you. So far, we've talked about how cooking can help improve your English and shared some simple recipes. Now it's time to meet our second guest.
That's right, Tony. Our next guest is Alex. He has a more elaborate recipe to share with us today. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Nikki and Tony. Thanks for having me on the show.
Hi, Alex. It's great to have you here. Can you tell us a little about yourself and your favorite recipe?
Sure. My name is Alex, and I enjoy cooking in my free time. One of my favorite recipes is chicken curry. It's a bit more complicated, but it's very tasty.
Wow. Chicken curry sounds delicious. Can you tell us how to make it?
Of course. For chicken curry, you need chicken, onions, garlic, ginger, tomatoes, and some spices like curry powder, cumin, and coriander. First, you chop the onions, garlic, and ginger. Then, you heat some oil in a pan and cook the onions until they are soft.
That sounds like a good start. What's next?
Next, you add the garlic and ginger to the pan and cook for a few more minutes. Then, you add the spices and stir well. After that, you add the chicken pieces and cook until they are no longer pink.
That's great, Alex. What about the tomatoes?
Yes. After the chicken is cooked, you add the chopped tomatoes and some water. Let it simmer for about 20 minutes until the chicken is fully cooked and the sauce is thick.
That sounds delicious, Alex. Do you eat it with rice?
Yes, I usually serve it with rice or naan bread. It's a perfect meal for dinner.
I agree. Chicken curry is a great dish. Do you use English while cooking?
Yes, I do. I read recipes in English and sometimes write my own recipes in English. It helps me practice writing and understanding new words.
That's fantastic, Alex. Cooking is such a fun way to learn English. Do you have any funny cooking stories to share?
Oh, yes. Once I was making chicken curry and I accidentally added too much chili powder. It was so spicy that my friends couldn't eat it. We laughed a lot about it.
Haha, that's a good one, Alex. Cooking mishaps can be funny and a good learning experience.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your chicken curry recipe and story with us, Alex. It was great to hear about it.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
We hope you're enjoying the show so far.
Before we meet our next guest, let's talk about some new words that we've heard today. These words are important when cooking.
Great idea, Tony. Let's start with the word chop. To chop means to cut something into small pieces. For example, chop the onions and garlic.
Good one, Nikki. Another word is stir. Stir means to move a spoon or another tool around in a liquid or other substance to mix it. For example, stir the soup so it doesn't burn.
Yes, and don't forget boil. Boil means to heat a liquid until it bubbles and turns to vapor. For example, boil the pasta until it's soft.
Those are all great words. Another one is simmer. Simmer means to cook something gently, just below the boiling point. For example, let the curry simmer for 20 minutes.
And the last word is recipe. A recipe is a set of instructions for preparing a particular dish. For example, follow the recipe to make the chicken curry.
These words are very useful when cooking and reading recipes. Keep practicing them, everyone.
Now, it's time to meet our next guest. Our next guest is Sarah. She has another interesting recipe to share with us. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Nikki and Tony.
Hi, Sarah. We're glad you're here. Can you tell us a little about yourself and your favorite recipe?
Sure. My name is Sarah, and I love baking. My favorite recipe is chocolate chip cookies. They are easy to make and so delicious.
Chocolate chip cookies?
Yum! How do you make them?
First, you need butter, sugar, eggs, flour, baking soda, and chocolate chips. You mix the butter and sugar together until it's creamy. Then, you add the eggs and mix again.
Sounds good so far? What's next?
Next, you add the flour and baking soda to the mixture and stir well. Finally, you add the chocolate chips and mix everything together.
That sounds easy and tasty. How do you bake them?
You drop spoonfuls of the dough onto a baking sheet. Then, you bake them in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 10 minutes, until the edges are golden brown.
Delicious. Do you use English while baking?
Yes, I do. I read recipes in English and watch baking videos. It helps me learn new words and improve my listening skills.
That's a great way to practice English. Do you have any funny baking stories to share?
Yes. One time, I forgot to add the baking soda to my cookies. They came out flat and hard as rocks. My family still jokes about it.
Haha, that's a funny story, Sarah. Mistakes are a part of learning and can be really funny sometimes.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your chocolate chip cookie recipe and story with us, Sarah.
You're welcome. I'm happy to share.
We hope you're enjoying the podcast so far.
Yes, we've had some great recipes and stories so far. Now, it's time to meet our next guest. Our next guest is James. Welcome, James.
Hi, Nikki and Tony. Thanks for having me.
Hi, James. We're excited to have you here. Can you tell us a little about yourself and your favorite recipe?
Sure. My name is James, and I love making soups. My favorite recipe is vegetable soup. It's healthy and easy to make.
Vegetable soup sounds great, James. How do you make it?
First, you need carrots, potatoes, celery, onions, garlic, tomatoes, and vegetable broth. You start by chopping all the vegetables.
That's a lot of chopping. What's next?
Yes, it is. After chopping the vegetables, you heat some oil in a big pot and cook the onions and garlic until they are soft.
That sounds like a good start. What do you do next?
Next, you add the carrots, potatoes, and celery to the pot. Cook them for about 5 minutes. Then you add the tomatoes and vegetable broth.
Yum. How long do you cook everything?
You let it simmer for about 20 minutes until the vegetables are tender. Then you can add salt, pepper, and any other spices you like.
That sounds delicious and healthy, James. Do you eat it with bread?
Yes, I usually eat it with some fresh bread. It's perfect for a cold day.
I agree. Do you use English while cooking?
Yes, I do. I read recipes in English and sometimes talk to my friends about cooking in English. It helps me learn new words and practice speaking.
That's fantastic, James. Cooking is such a fun way to learn English. Do you have any funny cooking stories to share?
Oh, yes. One time I was making vegetable soup and I accidentally used sugar instead of salt. It tasted so strange. My family couldn't stop laughing.
Haha, that's a good one, James. Cooking mistakes can be funny and a great way to learn.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your vegetable soup recipe and story with us, James.
You're welcome. I enjoyed sharing it with you.
We hope you're enjoying all the delicious recipes and fun stories.
Yes, we've heard some great tips and recipes so far. Now, it's time to meet our next guest. Our last guest is Emily. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, Nikki and Tony. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Emily. We're glad to have you here. Can you tell us a little about yourself and your favorite recipe?
Sure. My name is Emily, and I love baking cakes. My favorite recipe is a simple vanilla cake. It's easy to make and very tasty.
Vanilla cake sounds delicious. How do you make it?
First, you need flour, sugar, butter, eggs, milk, baking powder, and vanilla extract. You start by mixing the butter and sugar together until it's fluffy.
That sounds like a good start. What's next?
Next, you add the eggs one at a time, mixing well after each one. Then, you add the vanilla extract.
Sounds great. What do you do next?
Then, you mix the flour and baking powder together in a separate bowl. Slowly add the flour mixture and milk to the butter mixture, mixing until everything is smooth.
That sounds easy enough. How do you bake the cake?
You pour the batter into a greased baking pan and bake it in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 30 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean.
Yum. Do you use English while baking?
Yes, I do. I read recipes in English and watch baking shows in English. It helps me learn new words and practice listening.
That's a great way to practice English. Do you have any funny baking stories to share?
Yes. One time, I forgot to set the timer for my cake. It baked for too long and was very hard. My family joked that it was more like a cookie than a cake.
Haha, that's a funny story, Emily. Baking mistakes can be a great way to learn and have a laugh.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your vanilla cake recipe and story with us, Emily.
You're welcome. I enjoyed sharing it with you.
We're so glad you're still with us.
Yes, we've had such a fun time with our guests and their delicious recipes. And guess what? We have an extra guest with us today.
That's right. Our final guest for today is Laura. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Nikki and Tony. I'm excited to share my recipe.
We're excited too, Laura. Can you tell us a little about yourself and your favorite recipe?
Sure. I love making quick and healthy meals. One of my favorite recipes is a quinoa salad. It's easy to make and very nutritious.
Quinoa salad sounds great. How do you make it?
First, you need quinoa, cherry tomatoes, cucumber, red onion, bell pepper, feta cheese, olive oil, lemon juice, salt, and pepper. You start by cooking the quinoa according to the package instructions.
That sounds simple enough. What do you do next?
While the quinoa is cooking, you chop the cherry tomatoes, cucumber, red onion, and bell pepper into small pieces.
Great. What do you do after chopping the vegetables?
Once the quinoa is cooked and cooled, you mix it with the chopped vegetables in a large bowl. Then, you crumble the feta cheese on top.
Yum! How do you make the dressing?
For the dressing, you mix olive oil, lemon juice, salt, and pepper in a small bowl. Then, you pour the dressing over the salad and toss everything together.
That sounds delicious and healthy. Do you eat it as a main dish or a side dish?
I usually eat it as a main dish, but it can also be a side dish. It's perfect for lunch or dinner.
Do you use English while cooking?
Yes, I do. I read recipes in English, sometimes write my own recipes in English, and I watch MasterChef The Professionals. It helps me practice writing and understanding new words.
That's fantastic, Laura. Cooking is such a fun way to learn English. Do you have any funny cooking stories to share?
Yes. One time, I accidentally added too much lemon juice to the salad. It was so sour that my friends made funny faces when they tasted it. We laughed a lot about it.
Ha, that's a good one, Laura. Cooking mishaps can be funny and a good learning experience.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your quinoa salad recipe and story with us, Laura.
You're welcome. I enjoyed sharing it with you.
We've had a lot of fun today talking about cooking and learning new words.
Yes, it's been a great show. Thank you to all our guests for sharing their recipes and stories.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the show and learned something new.
Yes. Before we wrap up, let's do a quick review of the new words we've learned today.
That's a great idea, Tony. Let's start. The first word is chop. Chop means to cut something into small pieces. For example, chop the onions and garlic.
Next, we have stir. Stir means to move a spoon or another tool around in a liquid or other substance to mix it. For example, stir the soup so it doesn't burn.
Another important word is boil. Boil means to heat a liquid until it bubbles and turns to vapor. For example, boil the pasta until it's soft.
And then we have simmer. Simmer means to cook something gently, just below the boiling point. For example, let the curry simmer for 20 minutes.
The fifth word is recipe. A recipe is a set of instructions for preparing a particular dish. For example, follow the recipe to make the chicken curry.
Great. The sixth word is batter. Batter is a mixture of flour, eggs, and milk or water, used for making cakes, pancakes, etc. For example, pour the batter into the pan.
The next word is fluffy. Fluffy means light and airy. For example, mix the butter and sugar until it's fluffy.
Then we have greased. Greased means to coat with oil or butter to prevent sticking. For example, pour the batter into a greased baking pan.
Another useful word is toothpick. A toothpick is a small stick used to check if the cake is done. For example, bake until a toothpick comes out clean.
And the last word is extract. Extract is a concentrated flavoring. For example, add the vanilla extract to the mixture.
These are all great words to know when you're cooking or baking. It's important to practice them to get better at understanding recipes and cooking instructions. Try to use them when you're in the kitchen next time.
Yes, practice makes perfect. We hope you enjoyed learning these new words and found the recipes and stories interesting.
We've had such a fantastic time today talking about cooking and learning new English words.
Yes, it's been a lot of fun. We hope you've enjoyed all the delicious recipes and funny stories from our guests.
And don't forget about the new vocabulary words we learned today. They're important for understanding recipes and cooking instructions.
Absolutely. Remember to practice those words whenever you're in the kitchen.
And of course, a big thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show and learned something new.
We'll be back soon with more fun topics and interesting guests. Until then, keep cooking, keep practicing your English, and most importantly, have fun.
That's right. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and give us a like for updates on upcoming episodes.
Goodbye for now, everyone.
Goodbye.